It is 42 minutes after 10 p.m. Central African time. Charlotte de Panda coming in with that one titled Eli N'a Pas Vu. Before that, we had Thames with Replay. And then we kickstarted off with Burner Boy, trialed, or rather tested, approved, and trusted. It's me saying trialed. And the reason I'm saying trialed is because we're about to get into our very next conversation that looks at a competitive streak in relationships. Now, when love meets the ladder board, things get interesting. Some couples turn life into a tag team tournament, cheering each other on as they climb the ladder together. Others, well, they end up racing each other to the top, secretly keeping score on who is more successful, who is fitter, or who is funnier at dinner parties. Competition in relationships can be a spark, or it can be a slow burn. It can sharpen both partners, or it can scorch the connection that brought them together in the first place. When does rivalry make romance thrive is the question we're asking this evening. And when does it make it crumble? Joining us on the line is Paulo Mendes, who is a life and relationship coach. Paulo, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to African Diaries.
Oh, what a pleasure to be here with you, Sheila. Thank you. It's a great opportunity.
Lovely. Let's start off with just analyzing what kind of competition we're talking about when we are talking couples. Of course, they range in personal experience, but perhaps to bring it to the fore to someone who's saying, I don't even understand how we can become competitive within a relationship.
Well, it's very easy to get into that streak. That normally comes. Remember, we're not only the fruit of our past, but our upbringing has great influence in who we are as adults or young adults or even seniors, right? In older age. So if you grew up in an environment where healthy competition is promoted, is stimulated by your parents, by your school, by your colleagues, by friends, then you're going to have that competitive streak in your blood, in your mindset, in how you see the world. A healthy competition is always a good thing. Push us to be better, push us to do things in an innovative way, to be curious, to be competitive. And that is healthy. Now, it's not healthy when we make our partner our opposition, our enemy, our competitor in a negative way. And that comes in when couples disagree in a point of view or disagree in different perspectives that they have about the same subject. And then they see the other as an enemy, as a competition on who is right, whose opinion is the valid one. And when we come to that point, that is not good because then it's and I bring in the word compromise. I don't think compromise is the right thing because when we look at our partner as a competitor, are we assuming that I have to win and then you have to lose, or for you to win, I lose, and that becomes quickly a very toxic relationship. So we need to be attentive to whether we're being healthy or toxic in how we meet that need for competitiveness, for improvement.
You know, Paolo, something that you are highlighting there is the reality that we often compete with our partners and we don't even realize it. I mean, you gave us the context of your partner and you having an argument and you feeling the need to have your point being proven in that argument. And that in and of itself is a competition of kinds. And we don't even see that. You also spoke of compromise. And a lot of people feel like compromise takes away from who I am. Let's talk about what
Mhm.
compromise means. What is compromising?
Well, thank you for bringing that point back because as a relationship coach, I actually emphasize that point. I teach that to couples. You should never compromise because compromise means somebody is losing. Somebody has to give up their perspective in favor of the other person. And I honestly don't believe, from my years of experience with couples, in my own relationship, in my marriage, we celebrated recently 25 years of marriage. We have 2 kids. And I learned one thing, it's not compromise that builds a relationship. Compromise means somebody's losing. It's finding a common point of agreement and building together. Let's put it this way. Think of the relationship as a triangle, not a pyramid scheme, a triangle. And you and your partner are at the base of that triangle. The more things you have in common, the more you're growing towards building that healthier relationship. So you want to find commitments towards building a healthier relationship. I'm committed to work on myself for the good of our relationship. You are committed to work on yourself for the good of our relationship. Then we need to ask ourselves, are we trying to make sure I am right, or am I trying to be happy? My father taught me that. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy? If you have to be right, means your partner is wrong. And that's never going to make both of you happy. Choose happiness, not who's right.
Paulo, what's interesting that you make mention of there is finding a balance between you and your partner. However, what if, and this is me playing devil's advocate, what if the only happiness I've ever known is when I'm right? That's the context I grew up in. I grew up in a space and in an environment where if Sheila is right, if Sheila wins, if Sheila is the one on top, that's when she's most happy. I want us to skin down the conversation to an individual, because in a couple or two individuals, like you rightfully put out, to say that you committed to working on yourself, as am I committed to working on myself, and therefore coming together, it will be fruitful. But what if in this working, in this journey of self, all I've known is Sheila winning? How do we begin to have a conversation there?
That is such a great question. And I can bring that back to my own marriage. 12 years into our marriage, we were getting divorced. And if we narrow things down to bare minimum, or to the most primary issue in our relationship, was the need to be right. My wife was the only girl in a family with four boys, and she is the youngest in the family in her side. I'm the youngest in my family with two other couples, two brothers and two sisters. And the only way I could be noted, or I would be validated, or I would be complimented or something, is if I was perfect, if I shouted louder, if I was making myself heard and seen. Otherwise, everybody else was getting the attention on me. My wife had the same problem. And so, in other words, what I'm saying is, and that's the same for men or women, it's the same for many people. Most relationships struggle with that because of the fact that if you're growing up, you only reason, or the only way you get validated, if it's when you're right. When you're wrong, you're criticized. If you made a mistake, you're punished and you're told you're not good enough, or you try nine things and you miss one, you miss that important one and it's not good enough. For a lot of people, the reason they are like that, why the only way I'm winning is if I'm right, the only way I'm happy is if I'm winning, and if my opinion is the valid one, it's a fruit, it's the consequence of a traumatic upbringing, where the only way the person found validation and sense of self-worth and self-image was when they were approved by being right, approved by being successful in what they were doing. So the person creates this paradigm, this belief system. And I joke with my clients, I say, you are full of the wrong BS. And BS is belief system. So the person develops a belief system that if I do everything right, if I am the right opinion at the right time, at the right moment, and I get everything done the right way, it becomes a performance-driven paradigm, a performance-driven belief system, where my identity is attached to the fact that I am right. And to say to that person, you are wrong, you could just as well kill that person. Because admitting that I'm wrong means then I failed. And if I failed, I'm not good enough. If I'm not good enough, then I don't matter. You see, it's a series of wrong beliefs that are built into this belief system and creates the need for approval based on I am right, then I'm happy. I'm happy if you admit that my opinion is the right one. And that's not true. there is a belief system that is limiting the relationship, and it's a negative belief that's going to sabotage. It's going to create all kind of things that's going to bring sabotage and destruction to the relationship.
What's really interesting, Paulo, is that as adults, we find ourselves consistently needing to work on who we are as I suppose as an account of the things that have happened to us and we had no control over at the time, or perhaps not even control per se, but an understanding of what was happening to us at the time. And here's the context: we're in a relationship now. Okay, we discover that my partner, or let's make it Sheila. We discover that Sheila has this streak where she was in the wrong context, or perhaps a context that she grew up in did not foster her well, to the extent where she now needs to be right all the time, and she's now left with this, if you will, flaw of kinds that she needs to work on. The two things that I want us to consider: one, she still wants to be in the relationship, but wants to have an opportunity to work on self. Two, she's not perfect. So this work is going to be strenuous for, let's say, her partner. How do we navigate that terrain to make sure that Sheila is growing, but not at the cost of her partner?
Well, I have that very situation with a couple that I worked with a few years back, right? Where the husband was performance driven. He grew up in an environment where he received a lot of criticism. He received a lot of pressure to do only the right thing, not to make mistakes. And let me say that I believe I believe that our parents are doing the best they can with what they know. So I'm not blaming parents for any of this. But in that context, he grew up in an environment that was very critical, very demanding, and the only way that he was approved was if he didn't make any mistakes. Now, comes to an adult relationship in his own marriage, he has this need for performance, and when he's not validated in his performance by his partner, his wife, he is feeling rejected and he attacks back. The problem is you. You are not validating me. You're not recognizing my effort. You're not connecting with me. On the other hand, the wife grew up with parents that were very distant. She didn't know how to express love. She is eager to receive love, but her self-defense mechanism was, I push you away because if you're going to leave me, it's going to be on my own terms. I'm not going to sit around and wait for you to break my heart. So you see, at the end of the day, emotions are the invisible driving forces behind everything we do. Our emotions and our belief systems, they work hand in hand to create the blueprints for everything we do in our lives, in all the different areas of our lives. So that's why in relationship coaching, we divert primarily to the individual coaching, because the partner, the man, the other partner, the woman, the spouse, the boyfriend, the girlfriend, we need to assess each person separately and identify what were the blueprints, what were the experiences that created that belief system. And by identifying that belief system and correcting that wrong assumption, that wrong perception, the wrong belief, we can then allow the person to grow, or the person can allow himself, herself to grow with a correct, balanced perspective. Did I answer your question?
You did. You actually did. I think I'm going to simmer it down to the day to day practices as a way to close the conversation, Mr. Paulo. So, we are trying to grow, we're trying to glow in this relationship, we're trying to be healthy people. I want to talk about daily practices, things that we can do now. What can Sheila do now to better understand that, firstly, her partner is human? They've got their own traumas. Yes, we're going to go to counseling, but counseling happens tomorrow, in the morning, after breakfast. What can Sheila do now in the context of perhaps a misunderstanding or a misalignment or just my thoughts towards my partner, so that I can ease myself out and understand that this is a work in progress? What are some of those ways of thinking and some of the habits that we need to practice in relationship?
Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of exercises, but before I do that, let me give you foundational context. Every relationship has 4 stages. The first stage of the relationship is the initial attraction. That stage has actually very little to do with the other person. It actually has more to do with what I have in my mind based on my needs, on my desires, or my dreams, my fantasies, how I project on that person that that person is going to meet what I need. That person is going to answer to that pain that I have, to that loneliness, or to that need for connection. So the initial phase of the relationship, the attraction phase, is actually not about who the other person is, but rather who I make that person to be. That leads us to the second phase of the relationship, which is when we actually get to know each other. Is that transition from the initial attraction to the getting to know the person better. And then you start to notice the little things that were nice quirks that we liked about the person. Now they start to irritate us. Where before we had a disagreement and we said, it's fine, but she's beautiful, or he's beautiful. He's so handsome. He has such a great future. He makes me happy. Now he irritates me. Why doesn't he change? Why doesn't he realize that that is frustrating? So that comes then to the third part of the relationship. The third phase of relationship is where we have to choose. Am I willing to invest on, as I work on my own issues, because I realize I'm not perfect, am I willing to help that person in their own journey, giving them space, giving them grace, holding space for them to develop and grow, as I hold space for myself to develop and grow? If not, I'm not willing to put up with that. I realize that person is completely not what I wanted. The fantasy turned into a nightmare. I want out of this. Then the relationship breaks. If we make a commitment to work with each other towards building the relationship, then we move to phase 4, which is when you really start to love the person for who they are as you learn to love yourself. Then the relationship really works at its best, because as I learn to love you for who you are, I learn to appreciate myself. As I learn to love myself for who I am, forgiving my own shortcomings, I learn to appreciate and love you for who you are, forgiving your shortcomings. So those are the 4 stages of a relationship. So to help you transition, to help Sheila and everybody else that is watching, to help Sheila transition from stage 2, 3 to stage 4, there are a few little things that we can do. One is a breath exercise. We call it the box exercise. Inhale in 4 seconds, counting in your head, right? So and then you count 1, 2, 3, 4 in your mind. And then hold for 4 seconds. And then exhale for 4 seconds. That helps your brain to self-regulate, so your emotions can lower in temperature and you can see the situation for what it is with less emotional content, right? Then the next step is, remember that the same way I'm working on myself, I need to allow my partner the grace to work on herself. The way you are working on yourself, you need to allow your partner the grace to work on herself, himself, right? So that's the second exercise. The third exercise is that when we have conversations, I need to learn to use then I statements. It's not you hurt me, or you made that comment and it's hurtful, or you were rude. No, it's like, I felt hurt by that. When you say this and this, I felt hurt because it made me feel that way, or it reminded me of that situation. We need to take ownership of our feelings and then address the situation from that perspective. So take a step, breathe, center yourself, give grace to your partner, and then address the issue, not the person. I have a challenge with this. How can we work together towards a resolution? I feel threatened in this environment or in this situation, or when that happens, how can we address this in a positive way? And this way, we are working in partnership. So we're moving from the competition, where we make each other the enemy, to becoming partners, where we tag team to tackle the challenge at hand, the issue at hand. So it's good to have a competitive nature where we push each other to be better, but understanding that we are partners and we are fighting the things that we are facing. We're not fighting each other. We are partners. Our differences makes us stronger if we focus on our strengths.
And it's on that beautiful note, Paulo, that we will end this conversation. Thank you so much for those insightful tips. I was actually taking down notes when you're talking about the different stages of being in a relationship. I took down the exercises as well, and I'm also sharing it with my crowd as well. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope to speak to you soon.
Bye-bye.
The voice there of Paulo Mendes, who is a life and relationship coach. It is 3 minutes after 11 p.m. Central African time, chatting all things competitive streaks. One thing that I learned is that we tend to think that competition is about exterior issues. So perhaps in the workspace or at a dinner table. Sometimes it's just competition between you and your partner, just you and your partner. Where if you're in an argument, you feel the need to win more than you feel the necessity to listen to them. I'm going to let you simmer with that one. Let's get some music.
When the sun goes down, we don't stop the talk. Channel Africa, the best nighttime radio.